Well, build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance.
Hello and welcome to Longbangers in association with Lee Spirits. Tonight I will be your host. I'm John and I am joined by Longbangers founder Matthew Fairnie. Matthew, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks, John. How are you? I say I'm good. I'm not good. Like, it's one of these weekends, isn't it? Like, where Hibs have a shocker, like a proper shocker. I'm the sort of person, and I'm sure there's folk listening who are the same. You come home and you can't stop thinking about it. You want to have a right proper moan about it, so you're on Hibs Net and the Bounce and Twitter, reading the comments and posting and getting into like sort of niggly not even arguments, but like a lot of times just agreeing with folk and sort of collectively getting it off our chests. And then I was like, oh, I look forward to talking about the game perversely. We're not going to talk about it perversely. It's perverse that I was looking forward to talking about it. I don't know how we
that
could
would
talk
be
about
an interesting path if you want to go down that route.
Aye, take us aye. It'll be like the good old days. I don't know how I feel about it. So I know I'm embarrassed about the result. There's bits of the performance that were all right, and I'm scared to say it because folk will be hammering us for it.
No, us. They'll be hammering you. The reason, listeners, I'm hosting, and the reason that I introduced Matthew as the Longbangers founder is because I wasn't at the game yesterday. I was celebrating a mate's birthday, so I was out at Top Golf near Rotherham. It's really good. You should get involved. And Matthew, if you remember, started Longbangers just over 5 years ago. It was Longbangers' 5th birthday this week. And the first episode was Matty talking at his phone by himself. So that will be largely how the rest of this episode is going to go. I'll ask the questions, find out a little bit about the game, and Matty will take us through. Well, I'll go through the talking points for our listeners, and Matty will provide responses, because I know that when he's on the other side of the fence, he often just asks the questions and doesn't often get to get his own opinion in there. So that is very much, we're going old school this week. We could have gone an Anchor recording and gone for the shitty sound quality, but we'll maybe not go too far.
Nah. Can I finish my sentence? Because I feel like I left that in as if I thought we played all right. I was saying there was bits of the game that I thought we were all right, but the most damning thing is you could tell after a few minutes it was going to be one of those days where we weren't going to score. And then when Kelty scored, you can't what was coming. Like, it was this sort of restlessness across the support, and it was horrible. Horrible game, horrible afternoon. But it should have been a really, really comfortable, easy game for us, and it just wasn't. It was fucking grim.
So you mentioned there a couple of minutes into the game that you just had that feeling. Tell me about your feelings an hour before kickoff when the team lineups came out, and there were, I think, 6 changes to the starting 11 from the team that played Queen's Park earlier in the week. What were your immediate feelings when you saw the starting 11?
Right, so no be captain hindsight about it all, because that would be really easy as well. I thought there were too many changes to key parts of the team, right? New goalkeeper straight in. Now, you could probably get away with that, fine, but we never had a settled back four, so Beta dropped out, Megwa came in. I'll come back onto the Megwa one in a second. We changed our centre half pairing, so Rocky came in for Ekpateta to partner O'Hora, and Lewis Miller played right back, which we would have expected anyway. But we also changed our midfield too in the centre. So rather than having Newell and Campbell or Newell and Mariah Welsh, we went with Levitt and Amos. That's like your spine of the team, other than Venti, like in the number 9 position. But you're changing the whole spine of your team there. We had Malonikov on the left, we had McCurdy playing with Boyle, and we had Venti. So McCurdy coming in and getting his first proper action since Edinburgh City game. Malonikov on the left, supported by Megwa, who is, although he can play left back, he's a right back. So you've got a young player playing out of position, supporting another young player making his, third or fourth senior appearance.
He's only made about half a dozen senior appearances. I think 3 or 4 of them, 3 of them were maybe substitute appearances.
So I think it's a big ask, and when you consider that the players coming in are, I'm not going to be unkind. I think they're a drop down in level from what our starting 11 has been against Elgin and against Queen's Park. There are players in there that you're asking whether they're going to be at the club next season, perhaps, or have been at the club and are yet to really make an impact. Rocky still has question marks over him. I'll not include Lewis Miller. Right? Lewis Miller got a bit of a hard time yesterday. I thought Lewis Miller was good in the first half and then completely anonymous in the second half. Amos coming back from a bad injury, hasn't played very much. He played on Saturday like he'd had a head knock. Like his performance was awful. Like he had no clue how to play football. Levitt, we know, struggles to dominate games, but we put him in to dominate a midfield. And McCurdy, I think McCurdy has a lot of goodwill amongst the fans. Like everybody wants him to do well. The reception he got for the supporters was great. So far, he's yet to prove anything in a Hibs jersey, and I would probably include Vente in that as well. So we had a lot of players on the park starting the game that have so far not shown that they are match winners for Hibs, or necessarily our level. I thought it was a huge risk. That said, not one Kelty player would get in our team, and include Scott Allen in that. Scott Allen at his peak, definitely. Scott Allen now, no. We should have had enough on the park to win the game. But I think it was too much. I thought the team played like strangers and we made too many changes in too many key positions.
I wonder if that's an opportunity to ask a question that I hadn't originally intended as part of my agenda, but I think some of the things that you mentioned there make this one relevant. So it comes from Brunswick Bill. He says, team selection was a good example of fuck around and find out. David Gray fucked around with the team and it was found out. But if you don't fuck around, you won't find out. Lesson learned, I hope. Do you think that, how often do you think you'll see that sort of team selection from David Gray in the coming weeks and months in different competitions that we'll be participating in?
I don't think we will see it again. I was surprised they did it in the first place, given he was at the club when we played Falkirk, when we played Morton, when we've had, these other sort of banana skin games. Even learning for the last 2 games where we were terrific against lower league opposition, so Queen's Park and Elgin, we totally blew them away. The lesson to take there is play your best team and you'll win the game comfortably. I thought, so I don't think Gray took it lightly, right? I think he understood I think he understands that it's a tough competition, a tough place to go. I think he overestimated the quality they had in the team, or how ready that those players were to play in a match like that together.
Okay. You mentioned as well, you messaged yesterday to say that within the first few minutes, Lewis Miller had taken a sore one. And I think you later said that it was a high boot and the player hadn't been booked for it.
2 separate incidents.
Or 2 separate incidents.
Those were separate incidents, yeah.
So the first one, you said that he took a sore one and you thought that he wouldn't continue. What happened with that one?
He continued.
Sorry, what was it made you, what was that about the challenge that made you think that he wasn't going to continue?
Just the noise he made when he landed, and actually Miller's reaction to it as well, and also how his arm was moving when the physios were outside. It was right in front of us. Like genuinely, we were getting messages and eyes. I see on the TV. And folks sending me pictures as Lewis Miller's lying prone on the ground in front of me, and we literally can hear what the physios are saying to him. And I could credit to the linesman here, by the way, because the linesman was straight away shouting to the referee to stop the game. And normally, if it's not a head knock, they just let it go. But the linesman was like, stop it now. Because Miller was clearly in some discomfort. I thought he was going to have to come off. I wasn't sure if he'd maybe dislocated his shoulder but I think it was more his wrists when, after that he was moving his wrist about more beyond it. But I think Miller maybe overacted it in hindsight. Do you know, like he definitely looked at one point that he wasn't going to be able to carry on, but then he saw out the rest of the match and he was fine. So I mean, Miller does like a wee bit of the drama when he gets a knock. I think it's fair to say.
Well, it's interesting you say that because we had another question for a guy called Mark McWilliams who asked if there's a player who goes down injured more often than Lewis Miller, and he also suggested that Hibs move on ASAP. And the question I was going to ask you, so we've got the transfer window, I think, closes on August the 30th, which is further away than I thought it was going to be when I Googled it earlier. And also we've got that overriding challenge that Hibs have described. We've got too many players on the books and too many players under too long contracts, and a lot of them will expire next year. I don't know the exact stats of Miller's contract, but how likely is it, do you think, that Hibs will look to move Miller on in the short term or even that longer term, do you think?
I don't think short term we'll try and move him on. I think he's an able deputy for Quadrant. I keep his opinion, doesn't he, Lewis Miller? But I thought, well, I said already, I thought first half he was quite good. He was playing right in front of us. We saw a lot of what he did really up close. I thought his attitude was good. His work rate was good. There was one bit of play where he kind of chased it, stopped it going out to play on the touchline and kind of to jump and catch it. But he knocked it out to Boyle and then was straight on his bike to pick up a return pass and he got a cross in. I think Lewis Miller, when he's on his game, is a good player, definitely SPFL level. I just think he's maybe got you got an issue with concentration, and when the game's not going our way, as happened yesterday, I think he struggles with that mentally. Like he just doesn't kind of stay in the mindset. I think he lets that kind of thing get to him. But I don't think he would. If I'm David Gray, there's positions that I would target improving before I get to Lewis Miller.
Something that's just occurred to me then when we talked about the 6 changes in the start 11, and you mentioned Michael at left back, Miller at right back. It occurred to me that we've, as well as the lineup change, we've changed the formation change. How much do you think that affected the game compared to the previous 2? Because Miller, I think, was playing on the right of 3 centre backs previously, but he was playing right back yesterday, and I wonder how much that's affected the team. Plus, like the overall balance.
I hadn't really thought about this. I never really paid that much attention to the formation, but definitely we had. I mean, Miller wasn't playing right centre back, in my opinion, yesterday. So, I think it's another change. Maybe that's to accommodate Malotnikov and McCurdy playing. Because McCurdy needed some minutes, obviously. Although there's a bit of debate raging about whether or not these changes should have been made for Wednesday night's game against Watford, where it literally doesn't matter what happens. You know, it's a friendly, it's not a competitive game. Getting beat by Watford isn't going to be an embarrassment. Getting beat for Kelty is. I think there was too many changes. I just thought we played like a team that weren't coherent, and where I get frustrated is, and I was having the discussion on Hibs earlier on about, I get the need to rotate the squad, and some players might be tired after a couple of games in quick succession. Kelty Hearts changed their team to the weekend. I mean, Kelty have a tiny squad in comparison to Hibs. They have nowhere near the facilities that Hibs have, the ability to train to the level that Hibs have got and all the rest of it, and yet they put out players that worked as hard as our boys did on Saturday. Like, if you're talking about you have to manage the minutes and the legs and everything, well, why does Kelty not have to do that? Like, how is it good enough for Kelty but not good enough for Hibs? I just think there's a lot of excuses flying about for yesterday's team selection that don't necessarily stand up.
Okay. So that, as I say, I never saw the game, but I had a look at the stats. I saw the goal in the second half. I'm not aware of too many talking points for the first half, so will we just jump into the second half and talk about Flatman's goal and whether it left you feeling flat Man.
That's man. So Kelly had already had one off the line, and it was a terrific goal and clearance from Egwin. I give credit for it. Keeper came for a cross, didn't really get near it. Header goes in, and looked like Kelly were going to take the lead. That was for a set piece. They didn't really threaten us much other than that, but the next set piece they got, which I think was when they scored for it, it's a short corner, ball comes in, and it's a Hibs goal, concede, cross into the box, header, goal. How many times have we seen it?
I feel like this is the only thing I can properly comment on because I saw the replay, and it reminded me. Do you remember when Liverpool beat Barcelona in the Champions League at Anfield, and they had the quick corner for, was it Alexander-Arnold, and was it Origi scored? I think that was his name.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of looking at it yesterday, because it seemed like the ball was kind of heading over towards the corner flag and it was moved on quickly. The ball came in quickly. They scored. I don't think I got the impression from that Hibs have switched off. They weren't ready for the short corner, the quick corner. And looking at it, I don't think Miller tracked the runner. Like the runner definitely got the jump on Miller, and he just bolted ahead at the back of the net.
Yeah, exactly that. It was good from Kelty's point of view. Good goal. Their player wanted it more. Like, we wanted to make the run, wanted to meet the ball. We had nobody showing that same desire to clear it. And maybe again, it's been a hallmark. Ekpatea and O'Hara's partnership is that they've headed and kicked stuff that's come into the box when they've played together. I don't think Rocky has that same desire to get on the end of the balls into our box. And I know I'm pinning it on Rocky, but I think when you've got centre halves that aren't dealing with everything that's coming in, and you've got Miller switching off, you're asking for trouble. Like, we shouldn't find ourselves in a position where an opponent wants to win a header more than us in our box, and that's what happened. I think it's just sloppy, and I think that again it's reflective of a team that wasn't at 100%.
How did Hibs respond after going 1-0 down? You talked in the first half that within the first couple of minutes, like, there just was a feeling about the day. How did Hibs respond after that goal went in? Were they positive in how they were playing? Were they still creating chances?
Yeah, I think this is where the contradiction comes in for the performance and the result. So Hibs dominated the game yesterday. We created enough chances to win, and we created, like, hit the woodwork 3 times. Venny's missed a couple of great chances that he should have tucked away. Their keeper's had a couple of great saves that he's plucked out. So there is a case to be made, and it's whether or not you want to make the case or not. Right? This is where the emotion versus objectivity comes in. Being objective, Hibs' performance should have been good enough to win the game. In terms of number of chances created, in terms of number of chances conceded, and the quality of the chances, should have won it. No question about it. But the quality let us down, and it was evident that was going to let us down early doors, because we made bad decisions in the final third, or the pass wasn't good enough, or the shot wasn't good enough. Like, these things happened frequently, and it was a game that we've seen 100 times. No, 100. That's exaggerating. It's only 100. You need to go back 3 seasons to get 100 games. Tons of times over the last few years where we've dominated and we've conceded from one of a couple of chances that the opposition have created, and it just felt like that sort of day. But then it shouldn't be that much a surprise, because that team, well, by and large, is the team that performed like that last season, with a couple of youngsters in and a new keeper and a new centre half. Like, none of that should have been a shock to anybody.
Yeah.
But it still felt like a shock.
I think from the outside looking in, as I say, looking at the stats and what you're describing, what I saw yesterday was, I think, and one of the differences between yesterday, Queen's Park and Elgin. I think when we talked about the Queen's Park game, Hibs had something like, was it 16 shots, 9 on target? Yesterday it was 16-4.
Yes.
And then that story that you're telling about previous Hibs games when we've had that many shots, so few on target, the opposition had 4 shots, 3 on target, one of which they've scored. One of them has been cleared off the line. So how do you think, because I think we've been talking about some of these same problems for a couple of years now, how do you think David Gray resolves that problem, which seems to be arguably a mentality thing, and with regards to switching off at key moments and not having the desire to get back into the game or to go and win the game from a losing position?
Better players, first and foremost. I think he needs backed by the board. That's number one. Get better players in. This was meant to be a transfer window that we should have all been desperately looking forward to, given the money that's going into the club, and that's so far failed to materialise to anything remotely exciting. But I think he needs, and I'm sure he will, right? This thing about making sure that the players can, that is unacceptable. And this is where, he's put a lot of weight on Martin Boyle to be a leader in the team. That was missing yesterday, right? So Boyle's one that he needs to go and have a word with him and say, listen, it's great when we're thanking the team and the team performance is good. When you really need to step up is when we're having a game like this. Ironically, it's the sort of game that I think Joe Newell would have been the one trying to make something happen, and Newell never featured. O'Hora, I think, was probably one of the players I would have given a pass mark to. He shouts he's like the sort of on-pitch leader, but we missed. I'm going to fucking cliche. Like, you're almost doing the bingo, John, about the midday leaders on the pitch. Right? Seeing key positions, we didn't have it. We had young players. We had Levitt, we had Amos, with Venti in the centre forward. Like, Venti's no a leader. He's no setting an example. He's no shouting and encouraging. McCurdy was probably our biggest threat in the first half, right? I mean, you can see he tried to set the tone, but when we went behind, we didn't have anybody sort of going, I'm not having this today. I'm going to do something about it. That was what was missing. Somebody just to kind of go, not on my fucking watch. We're not going to be embarrassed today. We're going to do something about it. Whether it was like we talk about go and smash somebody, go and get the crowd up, go and get a bit of fight going, or just nothing. That's the biggest concern for Gray would be that he got minimal reaction. Where he'll take some solace is maybe that we were already creating chances. Do you know that says there's a contradiction, and I'm confusing myself for what point I'm making here. The performance wasn't terrible, and we should have done enough to win the game. Had we been finishing better, that bit of quality when it really mattered, we would have won by 4 goals. Right? It would have been easy. So how do you react better to that? Like, if you're already doing that and it just comes down to like an individual making a mistake when it counts, how you react to that? How, other than somebody who's not taking the chance or getting the chances, going, I'm not leaving it to this boy, I'm going to try and score.
Yeah. Well, it's probably a good opportunity for us to get into talking points, because I see one here from Michael, who says, we didn't play that bad, had plenty of chances that we squandered or came off the woodwork. Ekpatea and O'Hora's performances so far have shown that Rocky isn't up for it. Need a left-sided defender, midfielder and striker in, and if Yuan leaves it, also a left winger. Some of these are statements rather than questions, so I'll put it out there and I'll try and construct a wee bit of narrative around it. Let's try and wait until the league season. This is Paul Armstrong. He says, let's try and wait until the league season starts before the doom and gloom sets in. Unbelievably toxic and entitled fan base at times. Credit to the opposition. I saw that you'd got a wee bit of flack, or the Longbangers account had got a wee bit of flack, because you said that Kelty were well worth the win. And you mentioned that you'd been on forums, Twitter, Facebook, and you would have seen some of the opinions that have been flying around. Was the reaction from supporters yesterday justified?
I think to an extent, yeah, right. I saw one tweet saying Gray needs to go for a right. Fucking ridiculous, right? And that's my opinion. That opinion is ridiculous, right? Everybody's entitled to their opinions. No for me to say somebody's right or wrong. I think that's ridiculous, right? This is Gray's third competitive game as a full-time manager at Hibs. I think he made a mistake with it, but I don't put the blame at his door. I think he carries some responsibility. The players carry some responsibility. There's a number of factors played into it. It'd be a terrible result. Like I've seen folk have been trying to list where it ranks in our worst ever results. I couldn't quite get my head around why you would want to sort of relive that or try and rank it or whatever. But it is a shocker. It's a competitive game against where are they, League 2?
League 1, League 2. Division 2, Old Money.
Division 2, Old Money, right? It's embarrassing. There's no getting away from it. I remember we recorded extra time on as far back as Monday, John, when we talked about our hopes for the season, and I think my one hope was I hope we don't act like a normal club. We didn't have anything with other fans laughing at us, and we got fucking 2 games into the season, and it's happened. Not only that, we've got this golden quadrant fucking management speak thing that's out on LinkedIn that everybody's slaughtering us further now as well. With who's like Ian Gordon and Ben Kensall and Malcolm McPherson and Malcolm Mackay, and everybody's rightly doing the dinging about that because you're going, right, well, how do you fucking talk about a golden quadrant of leadership at the same time as we're losing to Kelty Hearts and one of those at least one of those golden quadrant was watching bloody, well, allegedly, I didn't ken this to be fact. I just put it out there because I've seen it in a couple of different sources on the forums. When I was watching Man United Rangers at Murrayfield, right? And you go like, that's not a fucking golden quadrant of leadership. The club's a fucking shit show at the moment, right? In fact, it's no. We're just off the back of 2 wins. Talk about getting carried away. This is me getting carried away, and that's how easy it is to go into hyperbole with stuff, right? And it's no a shit show, right? It's in the early stages of recovery. That's where we're at, right? The steps that have been taken, and we've got to Monty, we brought in Malcolm Mackay, we've got David Marshall in. There's loads of work going on to improve the position that we're in, but we were a shit show. But we are a laughing stock today. We won't necessarily be a laughing stock next week or the week after or come the end of the season, but today we are because we had an embarrassing result. And I think for folk who paid good money to go and see the game, and I don't think it's high expectations. I don't think anybody can be criticised for expecting us to go and beat Kelty Hearts. And to see us fail to score in the way that we failed to score and the way that we played, I think some of that anger is completely justified. I totally get it because that's how I felt when I came out the ground. It was sort of like, for fuck's sake. With the extreme stuff, I don't think that's ever justified. Like some of the stuff that comes out, I don't think is ever really justified. Like I think folk go too far with it. Again, it's just my opinion, and everybody's entitled to their own opinions. They probably think we didn't go far enough. Fair fucks to them. Do you know, like that's like I'm fine with that. Like the world's good to have different opinions.
I think one of what I see, and it'd be interesting to get yours and listeners' thoughts on it, is that when you have accusations of bedwetters, happy clappers, accepting the mediocrity, it just feels a little bit like, I don't know what it is that's divided the fan base, because these are terms that are used and I've seen being used for a number of years, and it almost seems like point scoring for each person that's using those sorts of terms. I think it just, from my perspective, it kind of gets away from supporting the football club.
It is.
And don't get me wrong, like I completely understand, like you expressed your dissatisfaction over the running of the football club, and I was really fucked off about it last year. And if listeners, subscribers will have read it, hopefully the wee thing that I wrote on the Longbangers Patreon, it would have went on Hubwave as well. Like, I find myself in a really difficult position, but like, at what point do we kind of draw back from that and just focus on just supporting the football club? Albeit there's going to be disappointments and there's going to be defeats along the way. And I think one of the things I talked about last week or the week before was, albeit the first 2 games, 10 goals, conceded 1, everything was going absolutely fine. That was great. And I mentioned about like Colin pulling me back and kind of like tempering expectations.
Exactly.
And what do you do, or how do we react, or how do we respond when there's that moment of adversity, that bad result? And I think what we saw yesterday was disappointing for me to see, because it was almost like back to Nick Montgomery, Lee Johnson levels of sack a lot of them, fucking clear out, that's it, fucking done with them.
And I do think we need to get away from this. It's like being bipolar, being a Hibs fan, and now, and depending on the weekend result, whether everything's fine or everything's fucking terrible and burn it all to the ground. And you make a good point there, like, and I think we said that, like, even though we had won the last 2 games, we still said that we need to strengthen the squad. Like, there's still work to be done. We can't get complacent. You can't just go, well, that's fine. We've beat a couple of lower league teams, so let's no look at anything or scrutinise anything anymore. And it's right to not get carried away, but we also have to apply that when you have a shocker. And football teams have terrible results from time to time, right? There's hardly a football club that exists that hasn't had an embarrassing football result, right? I mean, this was the Cove Rangers. Was it Cove Rangers that beat Hearts?
I think I saw Brora Rangers.
Brora Rangers, that was it. Aye, like that's a worse result than this one. Hearts went on to have a good season. You know, they're doing better than us now. They came back from it. Right? It wasn't fatal. This result's not going to be fatal for us. Like, we'll get over embarrassment, or as well, they'll get chucked up every now and again. Bare fucks to anybody who wants to bring it up. You know, I would, if it was like I did it with Aberdeen fans where it is. I was like, well, what about Darvel? And it's hard to come out. Darvel was a worse result than that one. We'll come back for it. You either throw in the baby out with the bathwater and just go burn it all to the ground again. And it is really, really easy as a football fan, and I'm guilty of it as much as anybody, to go like there was no positive for yesterday. You'd kind of see that there was bits that were alright, because that embarrassment is so bad and the end result was so bad that you didn't want to see, you didn't want to acknowledge it, but you feel you can't, because that would feel like in some way that it's accepting it's okay to have a result like yesterday. And of course it's not okay, but we need to move away from this. It's brilliant or it's shite. It's one or the other. It's never in between. You know, maybe we need to go, it's just good, or it's just a bit bad. You know, a bit good, a bit bad, and just live for it.
It maybe needs to be even more grey areas than that. You know, shite, great, good, bad, disappointing. Like, disappointing has to go in there. I think that disappointed for me yesterday. Like, and I say this because I've got that objectivity and distance because I wasn't at the game, but I looked at it and I went, fuck me, that's a shite result. That's really disappointing. Might have felt differently had I been at the game. I may have been more vocal. But there is, I think there's more of a spectrum there. And I don't know whether the way that people react to Hibs results is indicative of the wider world, where it's very much binary issues.
So. Yeah, I think so. I guess it, and I have no problem with people making sure that the club know that yesterday was unacceptable. Like, these results are not acceptable, but you know, fundamentally, that should not be happening at a club like Hibs. Now, the fact that it can happen means that it will happen from time to time. It should happen. Everybody needs to be aware that it should be a one-off, and this bunch of players and this manager shouldn't have another one of them under their watch, because they should all know, I can't let that happen again. And I have no problem with folks saying that's unacceptable, making their feelings known about it. But do that and then get on with supporting the team, going back to the team. Didn't like hammer them constantly. And I think where it crosses the line, and we witnessed it on Saturday, that Levitt I think misplaced a pass. And bear in mind, like, so we're standing and you could talk to the players, you didn't have to shout to them in here.
Yeah.
I suddenly went, "You're fucking shite, Levitt. You're never a Hibs player." You're like, who does that help? Like, why would you say that to somebody? Clearly, the guy can hear you. Why would you want somebody who you're hoping is going to go and turn the game for you to hear that and to be having that in their head when they're getting the ball the next time? Well, like, that's no supporting you. See, that's pure cunt. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get it. I get like the whole pay your money, say what you want thing, but don't, like, if that's what you want to say, go just fucking bottle it and say it under your breath or whatever. Dylan Levitt doesn't need to care that you think he's shite and that he's no good enough to play for Hibs. Right? It's maybe different if you're out-handed in amongst like fucking 50,000 folk and you shout it for the back in the stand because he's fucking a mile away in the centre of the pitch, he's never going to hear it. But if you're in earshot of the guy, like, you wouldn't stand in fucking Tesco and shout at a cashier, you're fucking shite, and then expect them to fucking pack your messages up for you. You know what I mean? It's just...
Before I move on to a few extra talking points, I'm just going to suggest that you are definitely going to get suggestions that you're accepting mediocrity. People should be allowed to put that abuse them. And I know that you're well equipped to respond to it.
I'm not accepting mediocre shouts at the players. That's what I'm not. And you know, the brutal bit about it is you're focusing. Did you say anything to the boy at the time? And no, I didn't. Right? No, I didn't, because I'm not what I'm after to go doing that route, having a fucking argument with somebody that thinks that that's all right. Well, just no. Right? I want to go and watch the football. I want to go and support the team. What I did do was shout men encouragement to the team and just try to counter it. So, like, I'm happy with my actions on it. I can say it now. And the person was fucking drunk, right? You know, the rest, they wouldn't have done any good. Like, nobody wins out of that confrontation if we have an argument about it. There's plenty of other folk fucking let their feelings known to the boy. I just think, like, Ronnie calm down, right? And I get how stupid that sounds when we've been beat by Kelty Hearts, because we all should be angry about that, right? In football terms, that is a result where nobody's going to pull you up for saying you're out of order for being annoyed that we lost to Kelty Hearts. I think that's a perfectly reasonable reaction to be fucked off about it. Perfectly reasonable. You just need to shoot stuff like that at players who are doing the best for the team, even if they're not good enough.
Yeah. Stuart, Big Stu, says, having watched the highlights since they got home, we created enough chances, just our finishing was unlucky, awful. Also, off highlights, we looked better in the first half with McCurdy on the pitch.
You did.
Ross Greaves says, on another day we went easily, pissed off. I know it's not an excuse, but we are creating chances, small mercies. And now we get into some of the other side of the coin, because I feel like we've had a bit of kind of objectivity, and now we're getting people being critical. So Jason Kemp says, why are we so slow to recruit in areas? It's obvious to everyone we need strengthening. It's happened for years with the defence. I think that's fair.
It is.
Albeit up until maybe recently with the horrendous potato. Now it's happened midfield and up front. To have one striker in squad 2 weeks from start of league season is just criminal mismanagement.
See, on that, there was Hibs Observer press conference with David Gray, T-Match, I think. They'd asked him about the striker, and he says, like, we need to bring somebody in, but then he went on to say, like, with no names in mind. Now, I don't know whether that's just I'm going to say with no names in mind, but we have got names in mind, just to stop any speculation, particularly after what happened with Simon Murray. But if you take him at his words, there is a worry that we are, closing in on the league season starting, and we didn't have an idea of who we want to target as a striker, because we all know before the end of last season that we were going to need a striker. Now, we acted quickly to get a new keeper, 2 new centre halves, which were critical positions to fill. So it's not like the club have sat on their hands and done nothing, and we don't know if they've tried to get strikers in that we've not been able to get, and then they've had to move on to other targets. We don't know that, but we also don't know that we have done that.
Yeah.
I find that a wee bit alarming. That sort of, like, we should be getting reassured to say we've got targets in mind and we're trying to get them, and then you can sort of rest easy. You go, right, well, that's fine. The club we're on the same page. We know we need a striker, but to say we need a striker, I've not got any names in mind now, and we're not going to bring anybody in unless they're the right player. That doesn't make me think, well, that'll be sorted by the end of the window. And I worry about that.
So I think this goes on to the next couple of talking points. Karen Hannon says, sorry, SDG is not the answer, but because of who he is, he will be given more time than better managers, and by then it will be too late. Vince Robinson says, big mess up with the changes. Next week should have been the squad game. And Neil Lennon, in inverted commas, lost momentum and goodwill, showed a number of players just won't cut it at Hibs. I was thinking, and actually Andrew Brown also goes on to say, all today does is send a reminder that the squad isn't good enough. They have the makings of a decent 11, but the wider squad is way off where it needs to be. SDG was right to make changes. That starting 11 have played 3 or 4 games in a short space of time. Hopefully signings in soon. One of the things I was going to suggest with regards to the starting 11 yesterday was that you'll never see that starting 11 again under David Gray. You might see some of those players flitting in and out of the squad as injuries and suspensions kind of happen, but wholesale, that's not the starting 11 that takes the pitch against St Mirren. Was that a couple of weeks on Wednesday, I think it is. What do you think about the suggestion that there's a number of players that just won't cut it at Hibs?
I think we've seen it. I think we've seen it over the course of last season and now into this season. That generally, and you do get exceptions, but generally the support aren't daft and can tell a player and can tell when somebody's not a player. And I think you've got boys that played there on Saturday that have had chances that they would have done it by now if they were going to make it Hibs. Like, I'd be very surprised if some of them turn that around. I do think there's like a bit of context around the road, and maybe not a rush to judgment on that one performance in isolation. And it goes back to what we're saying about they played like a team that hadn't played together before. And I don't
because
think that
they hadn't really.
Exactly right. So, and if I use an example, Falkirk beat Dundee United in the opening group stage in the Premier Cup for this season. Falkirk beat them. Falkirk league below Dundee United, albeit they're both just going up into the league. So Falkirk had been a League One team, moved up into the Championship, and Dundee United had been a Championship team, moved up to the Premiership. But there's still a full league between them, right? In theory, Falkirk comfortably beat them, and post game, the Falkirk manager and John McLean of shirt and tie and tracky bottoms, baseball cap fame, and Jim Goodwin of traipsing out Easter Road on his with his jotters fame, both pointed to the fact that Dundee United had a new team, trying to get a new system together, and weren't familiar, whereas Falkirk had a team that had not really changed from the year before, which had been together for all of that season. And the emphasis and value that they put on having a familiarity in the team has been the differentiator between two teams who should have been, like, the quality should have been geared towards Dundee United, and on paper Dundee United are the better team. That was what the difference was. Kelty are, as far as I know, right, and maybe there's more information in it, but as far as I know, Kelty are a more settled team. They played that 11 more or less played the weekend before. They were organised. They weren't great, but they were organised. They defended narrow. They made it difficult for us, and they all worked for each other. But they had like an idea of what they were doing. We looked like that hesitant way where players are like, I'm not sure where my next pass is going to be. I'm not sure where the boy to my right is going to be standing when I get the ball, or the boy to my left is going to be. Who's making what run? But that cohesion that was there for the Queen's Park game in spades was entirely missing against Kelty, and that comes from having a bunch of players going out. You're getting a shot this week, boys. You're out of position, by the way, and you're playing with Amos. Can you have they played together in the centre midfield? And actually, you're a centre half pair and they haven't really played together either. And we're going to make it a 4 rather than the 3 that you've been playing before. That's asking for trouble, and I think there's maybe a wee bit of leeway for the players there as well, because that's not an easy thing for players to go into either.
Yeah. Kaiser Soze asks, where is the investment? That is the only question.
Because
And you'd described something to me off air beforehand, so I feel like this is an opportunity for me to hand over, sit back, and you can talk about the money that's came in and where we are with regards to investment, signings, wages to turnover ratio, and all that sort of stuff.
So this is a thought that came to me this morning, right? And the very first caveat that I need to put on here is right. Somebody will probably tell me where I've gone wrong.
I can't remember the numbers.
with my thinking. And the second one is this is just me thinking about it, right? Just what my thoughts are, right? So this isn't so there is some evidence-based logic in it, but I'm no in the know with these things. I'm no saying my knowledge is any better, right? But to get to where the investment has gone, as of today, we have to go back to the point the investment was agreed, right, which was 27th of February at the Hibs AGM. Right, now, a couple of key things to note at that point. So Hibs had cash in the bank, so it made a loss for the year, but we had cash in the bank when the accounts were drawn up. So this means that even though we lost money, we weren't in a negative balance, right? So it's not like we start the year on £0 and then we operate for a year and then whatever's left at the end of the year is either a profit where we've got money in the bank or a loss where we're in overdraft, if you like to use those terms. If you've got £10 million and you make a £2 million loss at the end of the year, you've got £8 million, right? You're no skin, you don't need to pay out money or anything, you've got money in the bank. That was the position Hibs were in. We had two creditors with £1 million or thereabout for COVID loan to the government, interest-free, repayable over, I think, 20 years. Right, so not a lot of money, interest-free, great tenors for the club. We also had £5.5 million that was loaned from Bidand, again interest-free, but part of the investment deal was that they were going to convert that to shares, so effectively giving the club £5.5 million. So that £5.5 million that had been given to the club to pay back no longer needed to be paid back, and that debt was written off. We then got £6 million from Black Knight. So if you take us out having a zero balance at that time, right, if I had no money and we're just on a zero balance, we're effectively £6 million in credit at the end of that. And we owe £1 million to the government. We then had Bidand, HSL and Leslie Robb put in 2.3 million, I think, right, round up, 2.3 million last month or the month before. So £8.3 million has gone into the club. Ben Kensel also told the AGM, so again, last day, February, 27th February, says to everybody, right, these numbers that you've seen on the accounts, we've got 80% wages to turnover. That's no longer the case. We've got record turnover for this current year. Wages to turnover has come down to, I can't remember if it was 60 or 65%, right? But let's go to higher of the numbers, right? 65%, which is, I think, around the benchmark for football clubs to have wages to turnover at that amount. To get to that figure, it's all the salaries of the players, etc., divided by your turnover, right? The turnover, I don't think, includes £6 million in for Black Knight and the 2 million from the Gordons or Bidand and etc. It might. That's why I don't know, right? Either way, turnover's down this year because we've got no European football. We're 8th place. We got to the quarterfinal of the Scottish Cup rather than the semi-final. We've had to pay off Montgomery, which is a cost rather than turnover. Ignore that one then, right? So turnover is down. So to maintain your 65%, you have to bring your wages down as well. So even if you've got money to spend on players, which is where the investment is, if you want to maintain your wages to turnover at that amount, you need to create room in your budget to do it. It's not a case of saying we can spend £2 million, like £1 million in fees and £1 million on wages for the next year out of that money that we've got there, because that becomes unsustainable. And the next year, you have to have it against the turnover. So I think we found ourselves in a position where we've got, it's almost like we've got money but we can't spend it, which is stupid. So we're not skin. The money's gone on. Things you can see have happened already. So Famous 5 refurbishment with safe standing, some new seating in there. The behind the goals, there's new floodlights. We've hired a sporting director, new management team in, if you like. So there's some tangible things where money's been spent, but I don't think we're in any peril for the finances. I think that some of it's earmarked for other infrastructure things, and I think we are trying to move players on to create wage space so that we don't run up a wages to turnover percentage that's unsustainable. That's what I think is happening at the moment with the money and the investment. That's my theory on it. And somebody could pick holes in it, but I think until we move a lot more players on, we can bring in high paid players without fucking that figure.
Have Hibs, Malky Mackay said as much as that without going into the details with regards to numbers, with regards to player contracts and players that they cannot move on now and can't move on until next year when their contracts run their course?
Yeah, so let me see if I quickly find it. I'll see if I quickly find the quote. So Malky Mackay did an interview with Hibs Observer. It was a wee while back. I think whether they put it in the interview section of the features. He more or less said, don't expect to see a clear out this season. Where the real work can be done is next season, and the reason that being is we've got more players ending their contract by this point.
Which is the wages part of that wages to turnover thing that you were just describing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And I think this is where they will look at what we can do with the Black Knight and Bournemouth. Like, can we get money on players on a loan, or them to cover the wages? I'll just try to find. Right, so he says there's a lump. That's what I've got to do. They're going to spend a good luck with that because that's never going to happen. There's a structure to it. People will say, why not just throw it in the team? Some of that should, but there's a lot which should be going into infrastructure, so it's long-term sustainable. Where's the bit? So I'm trying to find that there is a bit where it sort of says it's not going to be this season. And you know what? I'll know. Here we are. We're in a situation at the moment where we don't have that many out of contract this year. And that being the case, along with the amount of loans that have left, there are gaps to plug in the squad. There are a variety of managers, players here that have been out on loan, and I think there's a hell of a lot that are out of contract next summer, and you're maybe talking about a clean sheet of paper. That's not the way it is right now. There are immediate holes that need to be plugged, and we need to do the best that we can with the resources that we have to make sure that David and myself can work on putting a team out in the pitch that gives us a real chance. But at the same time, the squad is probably too bloated and needs to be trimmed. That's not always easy when you've got people in contract that are not easy to shift. A huge turnover can't be this summer. There's two categories with the players on loan. There's those that are young and there's plans for them. They're out to build up to give them to break into the first team. Then there's those out on loan who are professionals who haven't been in the manager's plans over the last year or the last couple of years. That group will come back in, and David will have his own thoughts over whether they're part of the plan or if it's better they try to start their career somewhere else. But that person also has to decide whether they want to do that or not, whether they want to sit in or go out on loan again, because a contract is a contract. There's only a few out of contract this summer, but next summer it's almost that blank sheet of paper with contracts running down, no matter whether the player wants to be here or not. That's what we've got to deal with as well, and it's not straightforward. So it does tie in with that, where he's saying we've got to spend already that's holding us up with what we can do this year.
Yeah.
So I've not just plucked out the air.
No, it's not just pure speculation. It's maybe just a tiny element of guesstimate and a guesswork there.
Yeah.
I'll fire through a few more talking points, a few statements, then I'll try and get some questions in there. Crawford Bridge, we probably should have scored 4 or 5 with the chances we had. That said, Levitt, Amos, McCurdy, Jair are all not good enough for us to progress. The 2 teenagers will have ineffective games like today. All that together shows how much we still have to do squad-wise. And his second point on that, continuation of that first point, was Kelty deserved all the goal because of the work they put in. That pitch, though, fuck's sake, the plastic pitch coming back to haunt us again, even though Livy are out of the league. Scott Miller says, actually can it be fit, even rethinking it, but if that doesn't tell everyone that the squad still is as pish as last year, then nothing else will. Play your best players every fucking week. Cannon Hannon, I think after calling for SDG to go, he goes on to say, why change a winning team? Get the game won, then bring people on. Only one person to blame. Do we sack him? LJ and Neil Montgomery heads would have been called for.
No.
Venti's plenty. PJ Gapper says, and this is kind of where I was last year when I was last season when I started writing a couple of things, which was when I had a crack at Hibs and how they were being run. I'm going to give being pessimistic a go for once. Fucking shite. Kelty Hearts budget probably less than McCurdy's barber. Alan Brown, let's face it, the amount of deadwood at our club is frightening. Some of that shite, given long contracts because they played a couple of good games, is just fucking ridiculous. We are soft as shite as a club and big changes are needed. Not just a change of manager. Complete joke. That goes back to something that we were kind of going round and round in circles about last season. Mark McWilliams asks, why change the team? Win the game today and get the minutes into other players versus Watford, Peterhead, closed door friendlies. Horrific day for SDG. Why do you think David Gray decided to change a winning team and give so many squad players an opportunity?
I think he thought he could. There's a few things we don't know, right? So in terms of knocks and things, I don't think he'd let on that there were many players out. So Yuan and Cadan definitely couldn't make it because of injuries. He talked about playing McCurdy because he was ready to play games again and needed minutes. I think he wanted to manage the squad and probably felt like he could. And I dare say he regrets that decision now. Do you know, it's a team that should have won. On paper, we should have won. But I just think it was, just repeat myself, too many changes, too many key positions. I think even if he changes the centre-half play and keeps midfield to the same, we get a different outcome. There's ways to have done that or played a half with the strongest team in a half, like weaken it after the event.
Yeah.
Like that. Again, easy to say with hindsight, innit?
Yeah, definitely. Chris very succinctly says, I can't believe that happened. I think a lot of people felt the same. James Tefano says, mostly enjoyable afternoon in the company of Hibs royalty. I assume that is also fans chief VAR champion Matthew Fairley.
VAR champ, come on.
So many points, no left-footed players playing on the left. Levitt and Amos cancelled each other out. No urgency, no composure in front of goal. Weak squad and so many ball bag supporters. And it's no the youngins. GGTTH E Leslie, not sure of the first name. People coming straight out after the defeat is what Hibs are good at, saying David Gray's out of his depth. He done wrong, though not putting his strongest team out, but he will learn about the team. I'll back him to the end. Chris, McCurdy can't score at this level. I'm sorry, I hoped he would have made it. Get rid and take Jair and Levitt with him. You mentioned McCurdy and how Hibs fans have got a lot of affection for him, but he's not really impacted a game yet. How long do you think McCurdy has got as a Hibs player? So apply the same question I asked about Lewis Miller. Could he be someone that Hibs look to move on this transfer window, or could he be someone that we maybe look to move on next year?
Right. If you'd asked me a week ago, I would have thought McCurdy's card was marked to go. I thought he did well on Saturday. He was like one of the few bright spots. He rattled the bar, and if that shot had gone in, it would be like a cracking goal. Had a few other couple of attempts and definitely looked to make things happen. I think it's almost like trying too hard for him at the moment, but you need to remember he's a bit behind everybody else in his pre-season. David Gray talked him up a lot recently in terms of his attitude to training. the buzz about the place, how he's getting on with other players, etc. And that made me think, actually, we might see more of McCurdy this season than was initially expected to. I think he's maybe one we'll see in January. How he goes, I don't think there'll be a rush to move him on yet. But I think if we get to January and he's still sitting on, 0 or 2 goals or something like this, it'll probably be time for him to move on. I don't.
Yeah.
I think because of the way the support feel about the team just now, and this is why a result like Saturday's was so bad, was because those bridges were being mended. Like, we had two really competent and good wins, and then you have an embarrassing one, and everybody forgets that we were feeling good about things a week ago. That result was so damaging that the goodwill evaporates very, very quickly, and folks start kind of, instead of forgiving players and looking to make excuses for them or reasons, like we did all last season with Venti when he wasn't scoring, it was because he was having to drop deep. It was, it was all on the manager. We weren't creating chances, and then we're into this season and he's got one hat trick, but then he's missed good chances in the last 2 games, and folk are starting to sort of question about, like, do we move Venti on? It happened with Yuan, where folks started to lose patience. Well, Yuan's one of our best players, and folks still slaughter him. That goodwill for McCurdy will run out this season, I think, if he's not backing it up with performances and goal contributions. And if that happens, he'll be away in January, I have no doubt. But I'd like to think that he contributes and we get to January, hoping he extends.
Right. I think one of the things that's been suggested about McCurdy before, and one of the reasons why we haven't seen the best out of him, health issues aside, is that we don't play him through the middle. And it's been remarked upon. So you mentioned there about David Graney's press conference about lacking striking options and not having identified a target. How likely or how well do you think McCurdy could support Venti as a strike partner? Do you think they could complement one another? Are they too chalk and cheese? Are they just two very different players?
Well, they're definitely very different players. I don't know how they would. And again, it's difficult to judge on Saturday, because neither of the strikers particularly got very much space, like the forward players, because of the way that Kelty defended. It was just like fucking bodies, not a lot of room to operate on a bigger pitch against the better teams. I think there's definitely something about McCurdy. He's not a terrible football player by any stretch of the imagination. The same goes for Venti. I don't know. I was sitting on the fence with Johnny, but I just genuinely don't know whether they could work together as a front two. I wouldn't mind seeing it, though. Get a try.
Yeah.
Friendly. But it doesn't matter.
Offer. It's just as well we got one coming up. Kev B says, blame lies with Gray, far too many changes. Interesting comment during the game that the tempo wasn't the same as 2 previous games. I'm assuming that was maybe something that came out from the Longbangers account for yourself. He says, no surprise when I've seen the team. Surely as a coach and now manager, he must know the qualities that the players have, yet he starts Levitt and Amos. And I think this ties in with another comment. From Paul McQueenie, who says, not overly fussy about the result today, Gray needed to show everyone how poor the squad is. Loads of chances, crosses and shots, but lack quality. I think we definitely need a new number 9 to finish chances. Venti is not it. Venti is not the player. I'm not sure how that sentence ends. You don't think it feels too early for me for there to be suggestions that managers are playing mind games or playing power plays with boards or supporters to say like the squad shite. That's what I'm having to deal with.
I don't think that's the case. If you saw David Gray's, even just his demeanour after the game in his post-match interview, he was just somebody that was saying we lost because I've not got squad depth. He talked about like folk no playing to the standard expected and no realising that this sort of result isn't acceptable at Hibs. I don't think any manager goes in really. And there might be 1 or 2 exceptions, but I don't think any manager really goes in looking to prove a point at how bad the team is. you know, like to especially when you've got, as I think we have at Hibs, whether folk agree with it or not, a willingness to back the manager, right? We've seen it with previous managers where lots of money's been spent to try and support them with the recruitment, spent badly, right? But the willingness is there. I don't think David Gray's having conversations with Malcolm Mackay. Malcolm's saying, well, I'm not giving you another player. I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that. He'll be bending over backwards to try and make it happen. So there's no value in David Gray trying to prove a point because everybody already knows it. He wanted to win the game. There's no question David Gray didn't want to win that game on Saturday. So, I don't think it's about proving a point, but I think it did prove a point accidentally.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were left in no doubt.
Other John from the Thursday phone-in says, McCurdy and Jair don't offer the depth we need up front. Amos is not going to drive the midfield. Switching off for the short corner, whole defence seemed to lose concentration. Gray now added to the list of managers who have lost by not playing their best players in the League Cup. I think that's a fair comment.
Yes.
Parry, and I think this is in response to you saying that Kelty were worth the win. He says Kelty weren't worth their win. They won the game because we couldn't take any of our chances. It wasn't anything to do with our defending. Missing the chances we had was all on us. Cheap option for manager, cheap options for players, no quality midfielder up front. David Gray rightly got Benny Brazil says, surely know the former Hibby and hero bus driver, but Benny Brazil says David Gray rightly got plaudits for the last two performances. He needs to take responsibility for that humiliation. Too many changes. Squad is too flimsy for that. Appreciate squad players need game time, but they need to earn out when or come on when a game is won. So I think that's. Hopefully you've got a taste of some of the talking points that have come through to us. There's very much pragmatism there about players needing game time. Lots of people rightly angry about the result and how it went. And I don't know. I think probably the best thing for all of us is that we have another game. Probably not Watford, because I think that's relevant. And I'd like to think that the Watford game, I don't know. I was going to say I'd like to think that we don't see our best players on the pitch. And I think the only reason I'm suggesting that is because the game is fucking irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. Maybe it's a game, I don't know what the rules are with regards to the pre-season friendly. Maybe it's going to be a first 11, first half, second 11, second half, and just approach the game that way. So that players get time on their legs, players get rest, so on. But probably the best thing is Peterhead, win that game with the strongest 11 on the pitch, and then we can look forward to whatever the date is, the midweek game against St Mirren to kick off the league season.
Is that a midweek game then? But the season starts, is it?
I think so for us. I think maybe it is. I don't know whether it's anything to do with St Mirren playing. I think they've played European football. I'm making a lot of comments here that I can't back up with other than gut instinct.
Wait a second. I feel like I need to know this. Like I really want to be.
I know it's in St Mirren. I'm sure it's in St Mirren.
Yeah, we're definitely away.
Oh, sorry, it's a Sunday game. It's a Sunday game.
There you go.
I'm saying it's a midweek game. Well, anyway, Sunday the 4th of August, that's the one that we're focusing on after winning against Peterhead the previous Saturday.
Aye. But just want to see the point where I said about Kelty being worth their win. I thought like Kelty knew what it had to do. They let us have the ball where it couldn't hurt them, and they defended their box like their life depended on it. And they took their chance when they got it, and that's why I thought they deserved credit for the win that they got. And I didn't grudge them it. Like I came away with that with no complaints about the referee or the opposition or like injustices or anything like that. I just was like, well, they defended like they meant it, and they scored because they attacked the ball like they meant it. And I can't say the same about our players. So that was where I gave Kelty the credit for it. And I think if you just looked at the stats, Hibs deserve to win. I think that's obvious. Chances created, etc. Hibs deserve to win. I don't grudge Kelty that win in any way, shape or form. I give him full credit for it. Going that cliche.
Well, I think we've overrun slightly this week. So that is all the time that we have. But we will be back later in the week with our extra time recording that you can look out for, which will be in your podcast players 24 hours for our 24 hours earlier for our subscribers than for our non-subscribers, so you can look forward to that.
But for extra time, it's only for subscribers.
Oh, sorry, extra time is only for subscribers. Yeah, my mistake.
This episode's out early for subscribers. Non-subscribers get it later. Also, should point out as well the phone in. So one apology, because I didn't really actually get a clock that this happened. If you're a subscriber or a YouTube member, you'll get the phone-ins on YouTube ad-free in future. I did the last one ad-free. But I had in previous episodes, you would have still got the adverts, and that was a mistake on my part. So those will be ad-free going forward. And again, if you want to listen to the episodes ad-free, there is that option on Patreon as well. You don't get the subscription content, you just get it with the ad-free, or you can subscribe and get extra times as well, all ad-free.
Yeah, well, thank you for listening, as always, and I hope you enjoyed your bonus birthday episode listening to Matthew Fernie. See you next time.
Cheers.
Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee. I don't drink